Okay. All right. Welcome everyone to our May meeting of our Family Communications Committee. I am thrilled to see all of your faces again. It has been way too long. Our agenda for tonight is we're going to do a quick welcome, and I have a little bit of a pandemic question that we're going to go around just to see each other and see how you've been holding up. We'll do some quick reflections for the Title IX Roundtable. It seems so long ago. It was February 27th. But for those of you that attended, we'll just really quickly talk about what it was like, what went well, what could we have done a little bit better. We'll do an introduction. We have a special guest tonight, Ann Gibson, who is our new Chief Communications Officer for New Hanover County Schools. And so she's going to be a very important part of this committee, being that we're talking about communication to our community and our families. We are going to just do some general district updates. For those of you that work in the district, some of these will be a review. For those of you that are parents, we're just going to share just some basic things. The district has really come alive in the midst of this experience, and I'd like to share some of the highlights just so you know, from a child nutrition standpoint, from a technology standpoint. We've just really had some amazing accomplishments that I just want to make sure that you guys are aware of. We'll then do feedback and impact. It's been a while since we've met, but a lot of things that this committee has talked about and suggested have been implemented. And I want you to know that that work is having an impact in the district. So we're going to talk about some of those things that have occurred over the past 6 months since we've started meeting. And then we're going to talk about basic feedback from what has happened since COVID-19 and school closures. I'm curious from your perspectives, what communication has felt like in the midst of this. Ann joined us probably, I think the week that we shut down was your first day. And so, she's been working this since she joined us day one, and a lot of things have shifted. So we're going to talk about, I want to hear from you, what's been your experience as parents? What's been your experience as employees? What have we done well? What do we need to work on? And then we're going to end with some 2020, 2021 planning. Initially, when we met last August, we talked about how long we would serve in this role. So we're going to have some of those conversations. Do we want it to be a 1-year term, 2-year term? We need to do some recruitment for parents for next year, since we lost some parents early on. So I'm talking about some strategies about that. So sound good for the agenda? All right. So we're going to go around, and I'm going to call people based on where you are on my screen. And just because we do have we have a few new faces that haven't been a part of our consistent group. The question that I'm going to pose to you is one thing that you've learned about yourself since the pandemic shut us down. So what is one thing that you have learned about yourself since our county has shut down, our state has shut down, and the world has been flipped upside down? I will start, and I said this a little bit earlier when we first came. One thing I learned about myself is that I am a not great homeschool teacher, and I am so appreciative for our amazing educators in New Hanover County Schools. I've learned that patience is something I need to work on. And, my son and I have been working through it together, but it has been a struggle, and it's where we're getting better and we're getting into a routine. And I'm just grateful for the amazing folks at the school level that have been very supportive for us in helping us get through it. So that's one thing I've learned. Let's start with Allison. I'm going to come down to you in my corner. What is one thing you've learned about yourself?
I'm not going to say that I'm a good cook, because I'm not a really good cook, but I've never cooked so much in my life. My dishwasher runs sometimes twice a day. So that was really shocking to me. I'm surprised it's still working. But I feel like I'm going out hunting for food every other day or so, because we just go through it so fast being at home all the time.
All right. Thank you very much. I'm sure your food is delicious. All right. Miss Nichols, we're going to come to you. What is one thing you've learned about yourself?
Well, that I'm a Zoomer. I learned how to connect and attend all the meetings and realize that we are busy board members. And the
Yes.
support that we're getting from technology and Dr. Burns. So I'm learning to certainly be on time, as always. But I've had the greatest time in my yard. I think I have moved every plant, got all the weeds out, just have a great time. And our neighborhood is just filled with people walking. So it's a challenging time, but it's a wonderful time with nature.
Wonderful. Thank you. Bernice, what is one thing you've learned? Johnson?
I'm here. Apparently, I am a superhero in some type of alternate universe.
I believe it.
Yeah, I've been working from home, teaching 3rd and 5th grade from home, cooking meals 3 times a day. So just managing it all. I really have, when it's all said and done, I really have enjoyed the bonding time with my children and just, seeing how they work and just being able to have that extra interaction time.
That's wonderful. And you are a superhero. Don't forget PTA also. You're rocking it.
Oh, yeah. I got to look at PTA. Thank you.
All right. Sonia.
I guess the only thing I can think of is I just made me realize how much I love having a schedule and a routine. I'm even though we have all this free time, I still find myself like scheduling it, waking up at the same time, and having all our meals at the exact same time. And I'm just a creature of habit, and it keeps me sane through the day to still kind of have a routine with every single day, even though we really don't have to right now. It just helps me keep calm.
I love that. I'm actually with you on that. I'm in the same boat. Schedules are fabulous. Thanks. All right, Dawn. Are you there? Do you want me to come back to you, Dawn? I think she's in process. Let's go to Kate.
So I'm not sure that it is brand new information about myself, but I definitely operate better in a world that has more knowns than unknowns. I think the unpredictability of all of it, especially moving forward, I'm definitely a schedule person and a calendar person. And so I think so many things sort of being up in the air or planning for a variety of scenarios does not necessarily blend well with my personality. But I think the other thing is that I think we're fortunate, if this had to occur, for it to occur at this time, because there are so many ways people can continue to connect, even if they can't be face to face, but none of them replace the face-to-face, person-to-person interaction, because when I go from Zooming constantly with someone to actually being in their space, even if for just a few minutes, like the sense of euphoria, like of actually being in the same room, I think was more surprising to me than I expected it to be. It is not the same. It is a good alternative, in these circumstances, but the two are not equal.
I 100% agree with you. Extroverts, we thrive on that energy of human interactions. So I get it. Press, how about you?
I guess for me, how people say, what would you do if given an extra hour a day? Mine has always been I'd find the time to work out and to exercise more, and that is not the case because I have that extra time and I have not prioritized working out not one bit this whole 2 months. So that's mine.
All right. Have you replaced it with something else though? Is there
I
more
don't think
reading
so.
involved outside?
There's less reading involved. It's the out of sight, out of mind.
Got it.
I'm blaming it on gyms being closed now.
Yes. I appreciate the honesty. All right. How about you, Ann?
I think I've discovered my inner introvert. I think of myself as pretty extroverted, but I've actually enjoyed the slower pace and the quiet. I've been surprised.
Okay.
I'm eager to get back to it, but at the same time, it's been kind of a peaceful interlude if you're looking for silver linings in this.
Right. No, absolutely. I think that everyone talks about you're all in a different boat, but we're going through the same storm, or no, sorry, we're all in the same boat, but I don't know. Anyway, but yes, for some people, we're taking different things out of it. So I love that. Michael.
I would say how much I like or miss sunlight. I normally work during this year inside a studio all day or an office. So it's been nice to get like a little lunch outside with the kids or something like that. And got a little more sun over the past few weeks than I normally do during the school year and stuff. And Brandon's with me.
I see more live action coming into play now with our television studio. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I'm gonna get a GoPro.
Nice. Brandon, how about you?
Yes, in fact, I'll say for me, first of all, I just want to say, I really enjoy being able to tell the stories of our teachers and school system, now more than ever. I mean, we've told so many stories in the past, but it seems like right now those stories are really just being amplified, and it's an amazing thing to see the hard work that they're doing. I would say for me, and this is probably not a surprise to anyone, I'm the kind of person who loves social interaction, face to face. I'm an extrovert. No. So, for me, it's been, it's been good, but it's also been hard, because I love being around a lot of people. Today's the first time I've actually seen Michael face to face in a couple of months. And so I haven't been able to stop talking, so that's been fun. But anyway, it's just good to be here.
That's great. Thank you. And Beth.
So I'm kind of the same with Brendan and Kate, that I've always considered myself a people person, but this has definitely solidified that it's not even just seeing people on Zoom or talking to them on WebEx, but when I've been able to go into the corning plant where I work, just how nice it is to see other people. And I feel like I thrive off that as well. So that's been a nice, kind of just to understand that about myself a little better, that I like being around with other people.
It's going to be interesting when we come out of this to see how we interact with each other in real life, and how much we appreciate that interaction that we've been so isolated from for so long now. So thank you. And Dawn, are you on?
Yes, I'm on. I'm back. I'm sorry. I'm now.
Okay. That's okay. What have you learned?
Actually, I'm the opposite. I used to always think of myself as an introvert, and I used to say I could go in my office, work all day, not speak to anyone, and be perfectly okay with it. Mm-hmm. And I've actually been doing that because I've actually gone to work every single day, and I miss everybody else not being there. Doing all these Zoom meetings, doing all these chats. I miss them not being there. So like these last couple of days, there's been more people there working, and it's been nice to see other people and have conversations, and see face to face, which is totally surprising me because I would have never sworn that was me.
Right. Well, there you go. We're all learning new things. That's fantastic. So thank you all for sharing. Appreciate that. I got everybody right. I think I went around. Okay. So let's move into just some general reflections. I think, raise your hand if you were at Title IX, February 27th. I think it was just a few of us. If you could just share the experience and just any general reflections you'd like to share with the group who attended.
Well, I think everybody listened. There was a lot to hear. I was disappointed that maybe our timing for scheduling or whatever, we didn't have the attendance that we had hoped to have, but it was a good start. And maybe those that were in attendance were able to share with some of their colleagues and parents. And so it was a good start though.
Right.
Yeah, I agree. I wish the turnout was a little better. And I'm not sure what we could do in the future to make it. I thought the presentation was very, very good. It was
Gerald did great.
Yeah, and I think that the time for questions was really helpful too, They kind of, but yeah, it would have been nice to have a little bit more turnout.
Curtis, anything from you? I know that we talked a little bit about that night, was it the content that people were uncomfortable with, that they didn't want to come out? We were trying to figure out what was the issue.
Yeah, I echo those same sentiments. I was disappointed in that after coming off of the good showing at New to NHCS and the language dialogue that we had before that, seeing, because at the time Title IX was such a popular thing that we were hearing about constantly or being involved with in the news. So to see that it was such a low turnout was a little bit disappointing, but I was also impressed that we did have media presence there. So I was glad to see that because they had not come to either of the previous roundtables that we did.
So for those that weren't there, we probably had, 10 or 12 people show up. And of those 10 or 12, there were some good questions that were asked. And it was a good discussion, but I guess my question to the group would be, is this something you think we should try again? Or do you think we should go back to our regular structure of having a theme and bringing people in for the roundtable discussion versus the presentation discussion? I know we stepped a little bit out of the box with this.
Yeah, I think I was there too, that maybe the lower attendance, it was because the other roundtables that were so successful were discussion based, where this was more informational. And, there was good questions at the end, but the bulk of it was to inform and stuff. And we did tape it for TV and air it, so maybe people saw it there. But it was more like the other ones seemed like really more connected to this committee because we got feedback on how people were communicating in our schools and what we could do better. Where this, I felt like we were just kind of giving a presentation. Yeah, we answered some good questions at the end, but I don't know. It sounds like the other format was better for this committee. That's just what I take from it.
Okay, can I get a show of hands if you believe that we should stick with our roundtable discussion format, if you are a yay or a nay? So if you are a yay, stick with roundtable as always. Raise your hand now.
Not necessarily always, but for the most time.
Okay, and then prefer to have a more presentation style, raise your hand. Okay. So for moving forward for planning purposes, as we look at the next content that we're going to discuss for next year, we can talk about that from more of a discussion format. Thank you. And thank you to all that showed up also that night. Appreciate you. All right, so we're going to move on to item 3 on our agenda, and that is going to be the introduction of our CCO, Miss Ann Gibson. I thought it would be important for Ann to get to meet all of you. Hello, Miss Angela. We see you. Okay. We thought it would be important for Ann to get to know all of you. This group has come up with a lot of really great suggestions that have had some positive impacts in the county for the school system. So I'd like her to get to know you, and she will be an integral part of our moves moving forward. All right, so Ann, go ahead.
Thank you, Stephanie. It's great to be here tonight and meet everyone virtually. I look forward to working with you when we return to in-person. As we were talking about earlier, I started about a week before the COVID-19 school closure. So my experience to date hasn't been exactly business as usual, but I'm thrilled to be here and excited to be part of the district's PR team. It's an experienced and dedicated group, I can already tell. One thing to make you aware of, in the first few weeks that we've been together, we've shifted some positions to allow the department to tackle some of the more pressing issues. And so a few things that we're working toward, we're positioning the department to be more strategic in our storytelling, and Brandon can speak to that in just a moment, give you a little more detail. We're also working to raise the visibility of the TV studio, and that's happening actually organically through Michael's efforts to add instructional programming, but we're also finalizing a new hire in that area. So that's exciting as well. And then the final piece of it is that we're dedicating more resources and particularly Caressa's efforts in the partnership and volunteer area. And so she can tell you a little bit more about that. So Caressa, would you like to jump in with a little bit of background?
Certainly. Again, I'm Caressa Clegg, and I think I've met everyone at the meetings that we've had prior. My original position was Community Relations Coordinator and Facility Use. In my new role as the Administrative Assistant for the division, I will primarily be focusing a lot of my efforts on community partnerships and volunteerism within the district, just working to match our community partners with schools who are in great need of them, and to see and be able to make visible the wonderful community partners that we already have that are working with the schools. We will be working to pilot a new program, hopefully roll it out with the beginning of the 2020-2021 school year, all hands on deck. And just, it's going to be a way to, again, to get more community partners involved and to know who those community partners are, both for recognition purposes and also for safety measures to increase our knowledge of who's in our schools and volunteering with our students.
Great. Michael, you want to touch on our new hire?
All right, yes. Not to steal a little Brandon's thunder, he moved to the PR side, which I'll let him talk about from the TV studio. So we just finishing hiring, and not completely official, but hope to have a new person in the studio who's a former actually intern, and now directs a lot of the news you see on WECT. So he's kind of moving to education side so he could give back to the students, but feel he's a good fit and be able to jump right in to what we do in the TV side of things. And as Ms. Gibson, we were trying to just get ourselves out there a little more, change a little bit of the programming on the channel, especially now during COVID. It's all elementary lessons. If you have elementary students, basically a grade level an hour and then repeats. So we're working on continue to grow the channel.
Yeah, so formerly I was the assistant video coordinator with Michael, working with him directly at NHCS TV. I'm moving to the PR side. I actually just started about a week ago in central office, and so I will be our new media relations coordinator. So I'll be handling and pushing out a lot of the positive stories, that you'll be seeing all across the news. A lot of the stories that you have seen on the news and in the newspaper, I help put those together. And you'll still see me on the air with our educational channel from time to time as well. We'll still be producing some content for Michael. I'll be doing a lot of the features. So I'll be doing, some video work, but also a lot more work with the media. And my background as a, television news reporter, radio DJ, and journalism major, it prepared me for that. So I'm excited to be working with you all here in this new role.
Well, congratulations. Proud of you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Nickel.
As we go forward with this conversation, so the whole team is here for the meeting today. That may not necessarily be the case moving forward for the Family Communications Committee. There may be times that we pull one person in out of the team, or depending on what we're talking about that evening. But I thought it was important that you get to see everybody, because we've got a killer communications and PR team right now. And there are some really wonderful things coming down the pike for the school system. And so I'm just very excited, and the changes that you've made. Can you talk about some of the, I know Brandon made the comment about the positive stories, just some general vision or goals that you're hoping to achieve over the next couple months, just for the committee to be aware of from a communication standpoint.
Absolutely. Yes, we're, as Brandon was mentioning, we're talking about, in some ways, changing the narrative, but just getting in front of stories proactively, more aggressively, perhaps, working very closely with our local reporters to talk about issues and plan for those well in advance of the time they come to us with the story and the interview request. For instance, we're working on campaigns right now for the conclusion of the 2014 bond program, for redistricting, for our e-learning academy. So trying to just identify those nuggets of great stories, great work, amazing people that are all over the district, and elevate those and bring them out in the public. So we're going to do that both in the news media, and then, as Brandon was mentioning, we're going to do that internally. And then the work that we're going to do, we're going to expand the partnership program, as Cress was mentioning, and with that, really just branch out in terms of engagement. Our goal is just to create much closer working relationships and find those places where our goals align with community organizations, and then just work much more closely together. So, just really focusing in those areas and getting in deeply there. And a third area that's probably going to come just right on the heels of those would be working on more consistencies across the district in our communications practices, our social media channels, creating more procedures and guidelines and information for people to follow, since there's so many of us communicating in so many different ways across the district.
I think that's going to be really important. That's good to hear. Thank you. All right, and just for fun, give us a fun fact about you, Anne, that we don't know.
Let's see. I love to hike for long periods of time, and I've hiked the Grand Canyon 3 times.
Oh, all right. We don't have a lot of that around here. How do you get your fix?
I head to the mountains when I can.
Right.
But I'm perfectly happy here at the beach.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you. Sorry, good. Thank you to the entire communications and PR team for presenting to us tonight. We appreciate that. So, all right, any questions from the committee to the communications team that you'd like to ask?
Well, I was thinking, we have, when you watch television, it seems that some of the reporters that we get used to, we don't see them anymore. So there's a lot of turnover in television. So Anne, how are you cultivating a relationship with the reporters?
That's a very good question. And you're right, there's tremendous amount of turnover. So all of us on the team have developed relationships with specific reporters, and multiple. We have some where we're all in touch with them. But it's just really keeping in touch with those key people and developing those relationships so that when they're leaving, they're letting us know. We know who their peers are within their organization, just keeping in very close contact with them. So we're doing that. And I think that Brandon and Caress are ahead of me in that curve, and that they were already working with the media when I got here. And I have worked with quite a few remotely, but still intend to have those face-to-face meetings as soon as we get back to that. But we have found this COVID-19 period to be unusually, it's just been a really nice period in terms of the media relations, because they are looking for stories and they're looking for a lot of feel-good news, because we're all in the, under the stress that we're under. So it's been really a tremendous opportunity to open up that dialogue with a lot of the reporters that weren't necessarily as open to it before. So that's been very nice.
Good. Great. Thank you. Anybody else? Any questions? All right. Well, then we will go ahead and we will move on to our 4th item on the agenda, which is just general district updates. I just wanted to share just a few things that have been occurring that just are standouts. For those of you that are parents on the committee, you know that we've moved to a full virtual learning environment, or e-learning environment for our students, and school buildings have closed, and just the tremendous effort that has taken. Talking about Michael, if you caught any of the instructional television shows, we now have a full full K-5 opportunities for students to be able to sit and watch a lesson being provided by teachers, which was just another way to be able to connect with our students. And so, the teachers have just done an amazing job Zooming with students, trying to reach through Dojo, through Google Classroom, through a multitude of different types of softwares that are out there. And it was a monumental task to turn around and do it in over a weekend practically. And so the educators, principals that are guiding them, the coaches that are assisting, it's just been incredible. And that leads into the big ups to the technology department. At this stage, they have loaned out over 4,600, and Dawn, correct me if that number's higher than that, over 4,600 devices to
We're at
students
5,000
5,000. Over 5,000 devices have been loaned out to New Hanover County students, and they've started providing hotspots on an as-needed basis, which is an individual little piece that goes on the computer. So Wi-Fi was also being provided at schools. You could pull up into the parking lot and get Wi-Fi that way. But really, this virtual learning has been such an opportunity to revolutionize the way education looks right now. And although it's been a challenge in some ways, it's also shown us what's possible. And just really impressed with everybody that's come together to make it happen. So thank you for that.
Stephanie, can I ask Kate a question?
Yes, please.
Kate, do you have ways of knowing how many of your students are participating with all the technology?
Yes, ma'am, we do. We originally, in our first 2 weeks, we were having teachers track engagement. So teachers were documenting any sort of online interaction at all. And then after the second week, so we knew that largely based off of the devices that we were able to check out from the district, that a large percentage of our students were able to access. And then we shifted after the second week to say, okay, so they're going to their morning meetings in Zoom and they're logging in, but are they submitting work so that teachers can give them feedback and, that we're really increasing instruction, because we wanted to look at the gap between the number of students accessing and those engaging in the work. And so every week our teachers fill out this spreadsheet where they're charting, the kinds of work students are submitting: math, English language arts, etc. And so our goal every week when we look at that data is keep both of the numbers increasing, but also shrinking the gap. So we have been able to look at that each week just to keep an eye on engagement, and then utilizing our teachers first, but then social workers and counselors as well, to help reach out for those folks that we're not hearing from, just to make sure that they're okay, see if anything that they need from us, and if there's anything that we could do to increase their access, if that was feasible for them.
Oh, thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Great. So the second highlight would be for child nutrition. As of last week, and I'm sure these numbers have gone up, New Hanover County Schools had distributed over 350,000 meals since the school buildings have closed. And so I don't know if there's an updated number to that. Have we hit 400 yet? I know it's an impressive feat. And if you've had an opportunity to go to any of the meal distribution sites, as the families come up, the smiles that come from the child nutrition staff, from the teachers that are on site just to assist, the partner organizations that have come through, like the YMCA, is helping to deliver to some neighborhoods that our school bus drivers haven't been able to get into. So teaching assistants are on buses and helping to deliver meals. And so it's just been, again, coordinated effort to support these kids in all aspects. And it's been incredible to see. And they're working overtime. So just wanted to give a shout out to Child Nutrition. They've been great. Also in the midst of this is the time of year that it's Teacher of the Year. And we actually have a finalist for Principal of the Year on our committee. So hey there, Miss Talo. Good luck on your interview. And so that's awesome. But so with Teacher of the Year, this is usually a really big deal. We have a banquet. We celebrate the teacher. They all get to come. They bring a guest. but obviously because of the pandemic and school closures, that hasn't been a possibility. And so it's really nice. The communications department played a part in getting signs out onto the yards for all the teachers of the year. And so they were still being celebrated. And they're still, from what I hear, and when we spoke with the Educator of the Year team this morning, there are some discussions about how there's going to be a celebration for the Teacher of the Year. So can't wait for that. But even in the midst of school closures, this pandemic experience, the school system is still focused on celebrating those that are working so hard every day. And I just think that that's incredibly important to note. Last but not least, from a board perspective, we are in a superintendent search, and Jeanette Field, please feel free to say anything about this. As you know, we have our interim superintendent, Dr. Del Burns, who's been doing an amazing job since he came in, literally 3 weeks before the pandemic. And but we have had a huge pool of applicants that are interested in coming to New Hanover County Schools. And so we are very excited to get to see those applications next week, and representing from 18 states across the country. So we are looking forward to that. And we did a community survey and an employee survey, and we had over 1,300 responses to those surveys and over 500 individualized comments. And it was really great to read those comments and see what our teachers are looking for, our staff is looking for, and what our community is looking for. And so those comments are being read, they're being acknowledged, and they will play a part as we move forward with the superintendent search. Any comments on that, Jeanette, you'd like to share?
Well, we're fortunate to have the State School Board Association to help us again, because they did in our last search. And I don't know what we would do without them, because they've been extremely efficient. Yep. And I know this committee, the board's going to find the best possible person to move us forward.
Absolutely. And what was really great too, organizations were given the opportunity to submit a letter of interest or a letter of just comments about the search. And we had, I think, 7 different local organizations write a letter about what they are looking for in a superintendent. So it was really great to see there was so much community buy-in and a voice that wants to be heard in this process. And we want to respect that, and we're grateful.
The students that sent in their input as well. So that was good.
There was a group from Myrtle Grove Middle School that submitted a letter as well. Yeah, so that was pretty impressive. So any questions about any of those general updates? Those were just a couple highlights. All right, so let's get into.
You might want to tell them, I'm sorry, Stephanie, you may want to tell them when we anticipate having a new superintendent, when Dr. Burns has to leave us.
End of September. Yep. And so we will see as I guess we'll finalize our timeline at the next meeting as we're looking through as the applications are going through. But yeah, the end of September we should have somebody in place. Right. All right. Just a couple highlights about the impact that you have all had as a committee. Just a couple things that and if you can think of other things, especially technology and communications, because I may have forgotten some here along the way. But over the course of our meetings since last August, a few improvements have been made because of your feedback. The new to NHCS button on the website, that's right there when you get on the website, that was you. And so that has been implemented. We appreciate technology making that happen. And now our community has a one-stop shop of where they can go if they're new. And so thank you, great idea. The instructional video for how to maneuver on the website is also right there on the homepage and is making it easier for people to be able to manipulate and work through the website. So again, fabulous idea. Thank you, Family Communications Committee. We had a lot of discussions around being able to connect to our Spanish-speaking liaisons, and that was a pain point with a lot of our schools if there isn't someone that was bilingual. if one of our Spanish speaking families was calling in. Now the phone system, there is an option to hit a number. It's correct, right? It's a one number for every school, and it will connect them now with a liaison that is Spanish speaking. Is that correct, Anne?
Yes, it's option 8, and it connects them. They can get a message in Spanish and leave a message, and the liaisons will respond to them and work through any issues that they have. So.
Thank you. That was an extensive conversation that we had after the roundtable. The accessibility and the equity piece of someone that's speaking a different language, we need to make sure that they can get to who they need to get to as well. So thank you very much. That I'm so excited to see that that was implemented. That was a huge deal. And overall, the roundtables, over the course of the 3 roundtables that we hosted this year, I think we saw about 75 families. That's impressive, you know, for something new that had never been introduced to the district before. We had a really great turnout, and hats off to Caress for the marketing of those events, you know, and for Tabitha, who's not here, but for the folks that helped with logistics to make people feel welcome when they came in the door. For all of you that came and helped with writing notes or leading discussions. So it just really, it's been a successful year for this committee since it was revamped. Just so thank you to all of you. Is there anything that I am forgetting of some of the things we have talked about that have been implemented that anybody can think of?
We had I did make this survey.
Yes.
Both the parent survey and the employee survey from everybody's questions and everything. And I sent it to you, Stephanie, but titled it draft. So I didn't send it out to everybody. I didn't want to send it till.
Right. And that happened right around the time that everything shut down, right?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was back then. Yeah.
So I have that on my list of 2020-21 planning here.
Okay, I just want to make sure you got the link and you have that access, and I can transfer ownership to you if you want me to, so that then you can edit. We wouldn't want to send that out now. It's not. Nobody's thinking.
Yeah, now it's not. No. So, all right. We'll get back to that for planning. We can talk about a timeline for that. And I think it's important for communications to be part of that discussion too, because they may have access to software that we didn't have access to when we started that conversation. So we'll see what they can say about that. All right.
So, Anne, I'll share that with you so you have access to it just to see it. As
Wonderful.
to everybody gave input as to what they wanted the questions to be. So I kind of, do you want me to share it with everybody, or y'all can share it out so the whole team can see it?
Sure. Yeah, that's fine. Yep. If you want to, I can just share it to the group if you want me to.
Okay, that'll be good.
All right, so that takes us to item 6 on tonight's agenda, which is feedback for New Hanover County Schools COVID-19 response. As I mentioned at the beginning of this, we were in a transitional state in the communications department when all of this hit. We had a new superintendent that had just walked in, interim superintendent that had just walked in the door. We were waiting on information from the state about what we were going to do. And so I am curious to hear some of your thoughts for those of you that are teachers, those of you principals, those of you that are coming at this from a parent perspective, from a staff perspective. What were some of your thoughts regarding the communication response? So I will open the floor.
Well, I would say I was really impressed by the daily communication that we got the first 2 weeks. I mean, it felt like every time there was an email from New Hanover County Schools giving an update, on what was going on. And I thought that was really awesome. I mean, sometimes it was stuff I didn't need to know, but the fact that somebody might need to know it and where it was going on and happening, I thought that was really impressive. Yeah, I appreciated that.
Thank you. Okay, those emails were super helpful.
I thought it was good that, especially that regular communication early on, that being streamlined, so that we're still in a crazy time, but certainly initially as a principal, it was really crazy. And so it was nice to know that parents were receiving all of the same information, and that because perhaps one day their call went out, it would have been very convenient for me to send a Connect 5 call, but another day it may not have, but ensuring that all families were getting the same information, whether a principal was able to do that, independently for their school. I think that was really good. And the communication was actually so good and so regular. We were several days in and I was like, I need to talk to my people. Like, I need to reach out and communicate, because there had not been a pressing need prior to that to necessarily do that, because they were receiving the information in a variety of ways. So I thought that was helpful.
Who has access to the Connect 5 receipts when those are going out from the county? Like, do you see how many have been listened to fully?
Depending upon the person who sends that message out, it goes to them. So if it was a message that I sent out, then I would get that receipt. If it goes out by Denise Angevine, she gets that receipt. And then Maria Black sends out all of our district-wide bilingual Spanish messages, so she gets that receipt.
Do you have, and I know this is early as far as data goes, but do you have any data points, how many of those have been listened fully through?
I know for the ones that I was seeing during those first 2 weeks, I was seeing about 80% listen fully through. And then those also got sent out with emails as well. So we were seeing about 95% on emails. I do know Maria Black stressed that her numbers were a little lower from our bilingual families, as far as not just listening to them fully, but also she said what she mentioned at her roundtable discussion about not reaching incorrect numbers, so that she had some that's going out, but they're being bounced back because the numbers aren't updated.
Hey, Stephanie, what remember back in the fall we had a discussion about when the principals send out the alert now or whatever they're called, and clicking the email feature, so that while we get the call, it also comes through over email.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever happened with that?
I don't think we ever did anything with that. I mean, I know that at my son's school, I get the email comes through, I get the phone call, and then the email follows it, and the email says exactly what was on the phone call. And so I don't know if that's a school by school.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but based on my use of Connect 5, you have to be intentional about that. You have to, so what I do is I use my script that I use for my voice call, and then I copy that over and just edit it so that it's in a workable email format. So it doesn't automatically, it's not like it translates it. Email, it's 2 tabs. You can do the voice for the email and the email, but you have to enter the text.
It's so helpful to get when we get the voicemail, it's so helpful to have that email so you can refer back to it. And I get it from New Hanover County Schools, and I'm in elementary school. My daughter's in middle and my son's in high, and I don't get it consistently. I never get it for high school. And I'm a staff member for elementary, so I'm not sure if the parents are getting that. But I'm not. Sometimes I get it from middle school. That is so helpful, and I thought that we kind of had a, and maybe this, I don't know when Dr. Markley left. I don't know. I thought we had talked about asking principals to please try to do that to help families.
Right. So that's a good point to bring back up again. And that was a long discussion when you talk about the consistent practices and processes. It's not being implemented consistently across the district. So some are doing Connect 5, some are doing email. That autonomous communication piece from the school, it really has been up to the principal. So that may be something to look at. Because I agree with Allison. I mean, getting that phone call and then getting that follow-up email is great. It really helps to drive home.
Yeah, I think we talked about how not, if people are working, they can't always listen to a voicemail, but, usually you can check an email and get things, and most of these do come out during the middle of the day. So I think definitely some consistency there would be nice.
Yeah.
I did want to say with feedback. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just really, as a parent, really impressed with how the school district handled everything. I mean, I felt like the timing was so good too. I never felt like there was a huge lag between what the state was saying and, what our plan was locally. I felt like everything came out so quickly and was handled in a very timely manner, and things were changing so quickly as well. And so this is definitely one of those times where, I did not feel like anything was over communicated. Like the more communication was more reassuring. And so I think it was handled very, very well.
And one thing that I was going to mention connected with that, if communication goes to principals about the email piece, I think there will need to be a piece as well with the data managers in terms of how the email addresses are stored in PowerSchool so that they are in the right place to connect to Blackboard. Because I know as a parent, Cindy Bliss does a great job at Myrtle Grove in terms of weekly communication. And one of my teachers also has a child at Myrtle Grove. And we talked one day and I was like, how do I get the email? And I'm a district employee. I'm like, there's a yearbook code in the email. And Myrtle Grove had my email address in PowerSchool under my contact information, but it wasn't, and I don't remember, there's a screen that connects with Blackboard. My email wasn't there. So of course I texted Cindy and, she made it happen, but it may be like a check that data managers could do, maybe even as remote work, but that's, but in terms of making sure they're there, because if principals are going to do that, because what some principals do is they refer to the link that will be in the email. That is accompanying it, but there may be some parents who are saying they're not getting the email because I think there has to be a sync there. So just something to mention that we might want to check on.
Okay. Yeah, we can dive into that.
And with that, Anne, kind of keep up with, because I imagine it all depends on probably where your child came from through elementary school. Like I always got those. My child went from Bellamy to Holly Tree to Over. And so it may have something to do with when the enrollment was done and where that was put initially. So the data managers can't just say, well, I know they're all right, because some people get it. They really need to be looking at every single record just to be safe.
Mm-hmm. Okay, we'll take a look at that process and training as we prepare for the next school year.
One of the things I know we did, because we do have numbers and emails that change a lot in the fall at our opening Title I night, is we just printed cards and had parents confirm and make changes. And so then we went and updated those screens, but we are a smaller school. And so that is more manageable for us than it is for Laney High School, in terms of that. But I do know that can exist only because I needed an intervention to also get the email. So I just wanted to make you aware in terms of that communication, because I agree with Allison. It's helpful to have it all in one spot.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Thank you. How much did y'all use social media for your updates? Were you looking at any of the social media chains, whether Facebook, Instagram, Twitter? Was anybody on here utilizing that?
Facebook is weird. You'll see something, you can even go click on most recent and you think you're getting everything that's current. And then all of a sudden you'll see something that was posted a week ago and you've never seen it before. So I don't really rely on Facebook because you don't see it all.
Okay.
It's weird.
Yeah,
I
this
don't
is
know what
one
the-
of the times. This is one of the times where I actually felt like the emails and the phone calls came quicker than I was seeing things on social media. Which, when it's
yeah.
sometimes if it's something negative or alarming, it spreads on social media quicker. But this time, I felt like the voicemails in emails were actually my first line of connecting.
Are the numbers supporting that, Caress? Who's monitoring the social media platforms now?
That's Caress.
Is it?
I'm still monitoring the social media platforms, and I will say the majority of our, whether they be comments, likes, viewerships, they're coming from outside community members, not
Okay.
necessarily parents. Depending upon what I post, it may also get a string following from staff members, but I would say the most of the information that's going out on social media is being picked up right now by community members.
Okay. So COVID really is predominantly then that information is most likely being utilized. It's being received through the email and the phone is what it sounds like. Okay.
I also think, one of the things that we've seen is definitely in this period of remote learning, schools that were not using things like Remind or Class Dojo or internal communication platforms have definitely ensured, that they are at this point. And so some of that we have found, one of the things we did on like March the 12th is our goal was by the following week to make sure everyone was connected in Dojo. Little did we know that was the last week of school, but being able to push that out, they get it immediately on their phone. So that's faster than checking social media, and things like that in terms of that notification. So I would imagine that Alderman is not alone in that people have really utilized those internal communications for their schools as well.
I actually started Remind with my parents for the first time because of this. And it's been great because they can send me a text through Remind. Even when, like one time, one of my students was working at 8 o'clock at night and needed help. And so she just texted me. I wasn't checking my email, but an alert came through on Remind. So I was able to get to her more quickly that way.
And how do you anticipate, as the school year is supposed to end June 11th, right? And then we're going to go into summer. And how do you anticipate communication changing over the course of the summer? Because obviously there's going to be updates and, we're going to be getting things from the state. Do you anticipate the same type of communication that you've been doing up until now, or will it look different when summer is going on?
Yeah, I think we're in more of a lull right now. I think there'll be a lot of communication around graduation once decisions have been made. But then we're in more of a lull period where, that rapid communication you were seeing initially won't be the case. But I feel that that's going to pick up again as we approach the next school year, whatever that looks like. And probably spikes as certain issues are resolved, like the calendar for next year. Graduation, the calendar, there's more pressing issues. So, and I think that because it will be summer and because it won't be regular communication, we would tend to lean more heavily on the media to tell those stories. They'll want them and they'll cover them, and then use our website, just because we won't be in school and people won't be as engaged as they were initially. But any insight into your views on that would be really helpful as well.
Has anyone heard anything negative about the COVID communication response? It's great if no is the answer.
I haven't heard anything negative, but there is a little confusion. Just everybody's just kind of asking, what does this mean? The start date of August 17th for students. My friends that aren't in education are saying, so that means that they go back the 17th, and I'm like, as far as I understand, yes, but there'll, of course, be more clarification as the summer goes on. But in just with teachers, we're wondering, well, then if the students come back the 17th, they haven't announced anything about when we go back. which it would be great to know for planning. Of course, we may not be able to leave our houses still, but there's just that August 17th date being earlier, and it's just caused a lot of conversation.
Sorry, can you clarify what is that August 17th? Is that something from the state or the county? I'm not
From the state. That's from the state.
Yeah, a governor's initiative. And then this is Bernice. We have a calendar committee meeting tomorrow.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming that's going to come up. Because one of the confusing things in that governor's initiative, they said that, start date 17th, but remote learning, if necessary, wouldn't start to the 24th. So that's a bit confusing. But we have a calendar committee meeting tomorrow, so I'm assuming it'll probably be more updates coming out after then.
And there's a new calendar that's got to come out because of the legislation that came out, and so. Basically the guidelines, they told us the start date. They told us, we couldn't start before this date, or we had to start on this date. We couldn't end, after this date in June. We have to have the 185 or 1,000 whatever hours, plus an additional 5 days that can't be remote days. Plus then there's the 5 remote days. So basically you're looking at about 190 days. Or if you're looking at the 185 days or the hours, your 5 days fit in there, and then you've got these 5 remote days. And what they don't want is they didn't want people to say, okay, the first 5 days of school from August 17th, those first 5 days, they didn't want those to be the remote days to try and push back really the start of school. So that's the reason why they gave that bit. So,
and that's just for this school year because of COVID, or from here on out?
That's because of COVID.
Okay, so I'm sure the year-round parents are trying to figure out what's going to happen with their.
Yes, and there's all kinds of conversations, and the calendar committee meeting tomorrow starts at. Do you remember when that is, Bernice? What time that starts?
Starts at 12.
Yeah, at 12.
Yeah. And it is being streamed. So anybody who wants to listen in is more than welcome. It is a meeting that is streamed live, so people can see it on I guess Michael's doing it on YouTube.
Yes, they're all on YouTube. All the board committee meetings during this time are streamed on YouTube, and they're also stored there, so you can watch it later if you don't watch it live.
This is very timely feedback that's helpful, because we are getting a sense that in the media there's question around graduation and the calendar, and there'll be more issues like that, of course, as we approach the next school year. And probably good for us to know that it might be good to talk more about our process, share what the process is, because those decisions are coming, but we're just being very deliberate and thoughtful about them. So it's going to take a little bit of time. So we probably do need to get something out there.
I think that's a great message for a lot of things that go on in the district. I don't think, just a normal person on the street understands all that goes into the decision-making process. Impacts almost 27,000 students and 4,000 employees. We want to be able to move quickly, but that's not always the case. And so being able to understand what pieces have to be in place before this can happen, I think would be really important. That would be awesome.
And that's the calendar she mentioned, graduations too. Same things kind of going on there. They've got task force for non-traditional, traditional. They've been meeting. They got representatives from students from every school, principals, and coordinators. So they've been trying to make decisions that they can present to the board, similar to the calendar. There's just so much up in the air about what the restrictions will be when in the future.
And even before the task forces met, there was a survey that went out. So again, it's been a process to make sure you're gathering all the information to make the best decision possible for the safety and happiness for our students for graduation, because it is a big deal, So whatever the final decision is, it's impacting a lot of kids and families. So it's not being taken lightly. All right, so any other feedback, positive or negative, specifically around COVID? If not, we'll move to our final item, which will be planning.
I guess just do you think this will affect like any of the I know it won't change like the redistricting plans, but how I guess like Kate could talk about, will this affect you reaching out to any of the new students, open houses? And I know it's really early, but I think that's probably another source of anxiety for parents that, as much information as you could give them would be helpful.
So I'm laughing because I looked over at Caress because I've gone back to your email. I'm in the middle of drafting my response to Caress about this very same thing. But yes, I do think that's what we're all figuring out. Before this, as I was in the middle of communicating to Caress, we had two options for parents. We had a plan and they had received their color invitations for either March the 30th or April the 16th. To come out and have dinner with our families and participate and get a tour and do all of those things. And obviously those were canceled. I think the question for us and, maybe some feedback from this group would be helpful, or in my mind is now when is the best time? Because I think my thinking is we'll do an Alderman town hall like we did, when school first got out, and probably create a video similar to the video we've created for our rising kindergartners that we sent to the pre-Ks, sort of to an introduction. And so want to be able to provide that, but they're not mine yet. And so in terms of, for example, Connect 5, I can't send my new families, so I can get my sending schools, my receiving schools that, to do that, but then how to really publicize that when the kids aren't coming to their schools to receive flyers. And then really, I'm trying to think through when is the best time. I think you either have to do it before June 5th or you have to wait until open house season. But I do know that they are, and I know that the, Winter Park is receiving, a large number of Alderman students. They also had plans to welcome those students. So I think figuring out, because we do know that they are eager and nervous and all of those things about going to a new school, even amid all of this other uncertainty. So the best way to reach out to them and to be able to connect with them and give them an introduction to Alderman virtually, is the question.
So what information would you need, Kate, to be able to reach out to those? Do you need the email addresses of the parents, or do you need, what do you need?
That would be helpful. I don't know if there is a way, what would really be great is to be able to utilize Connect 5 for the new families, but I don't want to lose my families because I still need to connect with,
right.
I don't want my kids who are going to Winter Park to go yet because I still need to talk to them about returning devices and picking up items and all of those pieces. And so, maybe I think that's what I need, but I don't know how to do that. Like, I don't know how to live in both worlds.
So ideally, your new families and Connect 5 would be the ultimate thing.
Yes, but is there a way, because, Mary C.
Without losing your existing.
So I can have them in my existing without them leaving their current school?
I don't know. That's something I can have a conversation with Emily and Denise and find out.
And
that would be generally
awesome. Don't change over until July 1.
Yeah.
Like that's a whole week process with move-in. Just put my data manager hat back on. That's the whole week process. That Power School goes down so that they can make all of those changes and switches.
Yeah, but Emily can do magic on the back end. So I'll have a conversation with Emily and see what she can do.
Is there maybe
that would be
Kate,
in the
Kate,
translation?
FYI, Mary C. Williams we're going through the same thing. We're trying to figure out. I'm sorry if you can't hear me. Mary C. Williams is trying to figure out the same thing as well.
Okay.
Is there something that the district could standardize? Like you talked about town halls. Could there be welcoming town halls for every elementary school that is receiving kids as an introductory? And I apologize, my dogs are protecting us from a squirrel right now. So if they freak out, I apologize. But is there a way to do something making it more of like a virtual Zoom meeting that families that are moving get, and we put it out on social media or emails go out. This is Alderman's night. This is Williams's night. This is Forest Hill's night. And it's the staff coming and talking, and maybe if you've got students that want to jump on, I don't know. I mean, just something that they're getting that piece, and it's open, so you have an option.
The problem is when you advertise those links to those Zoom meetings like that, they'd be out in the public for anybody to pop in. I mean, you could have any kind of random person jumping in, and then because you don't know, if you do the waiting room, you don't know who they are to know whether they're a future parent or not. So you'd be letting them in, and then they could be saying all kinds of stuff.
So what about instead of that? So CTEC did a thing today on Instagram Live, and they had people in their Zoom and they were streaming it on Instagram. So what if it was just the people on Zoom are the school-based folks? So you have control over who's in there, but then you're streaming it on Facebook Live or YouTube so people can watch, and people are just introducing themselves. Hey, this is what I teach at such and such school, and this is why our school is fabulous, and we're excited for all the new folks coming, just to give that facial recognition piece, even if you're not talking directly to kids and families. It's that first introduction to say, I'm excited to be going here.
So if it's just one-sided, if the families aren't talking too, then you could just do a video. There's no need to. Yeah, you could just do a video and then post that.
Yep.
And that might be the thing to do, actually, because Dawn, you make a really good point. We don't really know these families yet. And so it's not like when I did my town hall when we first closed school, because I knew who those people were in terms of bringing them in. And so that does create a little bit of a dicier situation. So maybe that is the thing to do, is at this point, even though it wouldn't be two-way, to do an introductory video like we did for the pre-Ks, like a welcome to, whatever the school is, and then just have to wait. But at least that would give them an idea of, for the kindergarten, we did sort of like a walking tour, so that you could give them some information enough to sort of hang on until we get closer to the new year.
And I know I've been contacted by like College Park, trying to work on a video for this, and doing some other schools. And a video allows each school to kind of make it the way they want to say it, as opposed to saying you're all going to do a Zoom meeting. College Park can put what they want, aldermen can do the video their way and kind of introduce it. So that may be a better format for that reason too.
Could you, being that you're starting to grow your viewership of NHCS TV because of the instructional component, could you capitalize on that and roll the videos there and do like a school intro week, for all of the schools that are receiving kids, put out a schedule, hey, if you're going to Winter Park, watch Tuesday at noon to learn about your school, or something to that effect.
I could air it, yes, without question. So that would require, though, someone higher than me making all the schools make a video. Now I know some are, but then you get into the thing of the ones that didn't, or something to that effect. Or do you have a cutoff line for a school that's only getting, say, 5 new kids?
Right.
Where is the cutoff line, if there is one? I'm not saying none of that can be done. I'm just saying it takes more than like, we're going to make a video and air it. Just a little.
Isn't every school getting different children? Isn't everybody affected? No. Okay.
No. Some are only losing.
Okay.
And so they wouldn't need to, but for the ones, to your point, Michael, like, even if a school's only getting 5 kids, that's still 5 families that are moving. And I think they deserve that opportunity to see that school,
So like the first barrier is just getting, like what Kate said, access to who's coming.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, it's.
I think Dawn's right there. I think that's the way to do it if that's how schools want to reach out. And I do think you know, I know that originally every school had to have a plan for that transition, and I do think every school having a plan is important. Again, I'm not in charge, so if that wasn't clear, just in my opinion, I think every school has to have a plan, but I don't know that they all have to look the same, depending on, you know, the gifts and resources of the people who would pull that together. Because I think that whether it's digitally or video or through the mail, I think there's a lot of ways to welcome new families, and I do think that, you know, there should be some freedom in terms of, and creativity that's specific to the school in terms of how they reach out. But perhaps, because I know prior to this, there was an expectation that we had a plan, and we submitted those plans to the district. The only problem is that none of them came to fruition, you know, because of this. So, you know, maybe, I don't know, Dawn, if, you know, you want to share that maybe those plans need to be revised to make sure that, among all of the other things that people are concerned about, that they're considering now how to make this transition, and that can be unique to their individual schools, perhaps.
All right, thank you. So in the interest of time, guys, I do want to get to the last item on our agenda. And I some notes over there. So that conversation, if there's any way just to have the senior staff, you know, what are the expectations? Where do we stand with plans, the transition plans for the schools? I think would be a good action item. All right. So the last item on the list is 2020-21 planning. One of the things that we had talked about, but I don't think, I went back today to look in my notes and I can't find it, is service time for this committee. And I don't know if we ever decided if it was going to be a 1-year commitment or a 2-year commitment. So I'd like to put it to the members that are here today. You know, would you like to continue serving? And you don't have to have a response necessarily today. But this is something we need to look at from a recruitment standpoint. I know that we definitely need to bring in 2 more parents for next year. As far as if somebody were to stay as is, I think that from the way that we set it up, we wouldn't need anybody on the educator side. I think we are well versed with the educator side, the principal representatives, the central office administration. I think it's important that this round, I think we need to prioritize a Spanish-speaking liaison for next year. I think that we should add that. That came up, you know, that was a very important part of a lot of our dialogue this year. So I'm going to let everybody think on that. If you would like to serve, but just any thoughts on 1-year commitment or 2-year commitment. If it was 1-year commitment, you'd all be done. You'd be able to go off into the sunset after this meeting and be done and over with. If we go to 2, you will have the option to drop off since that wasn't established from the beginning. But what are your thoughts?
This is Bernice. So I would just like the PTA council to have a seat. So it might not necessarily be me, but it may be a representative from the council.
Okay, you want to volunteer somebody, Bernice?
Which is probably gonna be myself. Myself. But
Very
I
good.
will, you know, somebody from the council will.
No, we need you. We need you.
Okay, because Ms. Nichols said I have to stay on.
Good.
Thank you.
Stephanie, if we did a 2-year rotation and we really worked hard to get more parents to be in on the team next year, then it would help create there's always a constant, not like it just wipes clean every 2 years and then
right
more on. But then like when the parents rotate off, there's another set of parents that was their first year. So they've got another year and then more would come in. So you constantly have experience.
So the group that we would bring in next fall would be on for 2 years and you guys would be finishing up next year. Yeah. That's how, you know, how we do it on the board. So I think that's definitely
help for just consistency and in the history of what decision making and input.
Yeah, it's a really good point. Anyone else thoughts?
Yeah, I'm happy to stay on for another year. I feel like we kind of hit our stride, so I kind of feel like the momentum is there, that to just leave would just feel kind of abrupt.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like there's still a lot of things that we, have mentioned, but could really build on. So I'd love to do another year. I think it'd be really helpful when looking at parents, maybe some more like middle school parents. I don't feel like that voice has been really represented in this group as much. And I can't really speak much onto middle school experiences. So just something to keep in mind.
Yeah, I agree.
I would stay on for another year as well.
Thank you, Ms. Gaines.
You're welcome.
Are there any is there representation we don't have that you think we need? We've mentioned a Spanish speaking either liaison from the district. We've mentioned a middle school parent. What voice are we missing in this group?
I think there's just having even another parent aside from a middle school. I think just a few more pure parents. I would like to hear more about their communicate. We're all parents, even a lot of the educators here, and we do have some parents, but I just think adding a few more parents may help.
I agree. I think we need quite a few more just to get a better perspective. Maybe look, I know in part of the application process, it was where do you live in the county, trying to get a range across the county.
Yeah.
But because not everybody can come to every meeting, the more parents that we have actually on the committee, then those kind of situations that come up, at least, we'd have more of a chance of having more parents attend.
Right.
I have a couple ideas of different parents from different economical statuses, but you may have to provide transportation for them to go to some of the meetings.
Right.
If you are willing to do that.
But I think that's an important voice. That's something we look at for next year. Okay. When you say more parents, how many are we talking here? You want to broaden our group here. What is a productive number? Because right now I think we sit at, we had 16 initially on the committee and we lost 2 fairly early. So we have 14 members. How many would you like to see us go to?
How many of the 14 members are parents but not employees?
Not many.
Not many. Yeah.
Just 2.
Just 2.
I'm a parent and not an employee.
3.
There's another, I can't remember her name, but she's got a child at Hoggard.
Oh. No, that's Beth.
Is that you, Beth? I thought there was somebody else. She had darker hair.
Tiffany. She's got a child at Gregory.
Oh, okay.
So
she works in the schools too, right?
I'm sorry?
I think, does Tiffany work in the schools too, or she works?
No, she works in the schools, but she works for Coastal Horizon. She's not a New Hanover County employee.
So I think it would be, I don't know, you can't always pick who's going to apply or, how many are going to apply, but looking at getting a pocket of elementary, like an elementary little cohort, a middle school cohort, and a high school cohort would be good. Not all from the same school, of course, but it's hard when you got, 2 high schools represented or 3 elementary schools, just kind of trying to get an overarching view. By spreading it out that way might be better than just across the county.
So, with that in mind, does it make sense, so currently we're meeting bi-monthly, right? So would it make sense to have elementary, which is our largest, with the largest number of schools, have them meet every other month with some of the central representation, and then have middle and high representation on the off month?
So if you were to have a pool of parents at each level, because they're not all going to come to the meetings. Yes, they could all show up, but is that a bad thing to have? But chances are they're not all going to show up because, they have other commitments. But if there's a way to ensure we have at least 2 per level actually at the meetings, I think it's good to have the elementary parents at the meeting hearing the middle school stuff and the middle school stuff hearing the high school stuff, because nowadays you got to start thinking about that next level. Like, you can't wait till 5th grade, second semester,
Right.
thinking about middle school.
That's
So
a good point on.
To kind of have them, there to kind of talk about what communication, we may be missing, that they really should know. And like those of us who are employees, we know what questions to ask and where to look for stuff so that we can make sure we are informed, but parents don't necessarily know that.
Okay, that's a good
Now
point.
that we're all Zoom pros, you could do off, the off months could be Zoom meetings, touching
Right.
base and catching up and making sure we're ready for the on months.
That's a good
Okay.
suggestion.
Yeah,
that's a
and
good suggestion.
I also think, once we're at a place where we're able to get the roundtables going, that some of that input that we're talking about needing, that we're talking about adding to the committee to broaden the committee, we can really, because at some point, then the committee starts to look like a roundtable, so then,
Right.
you could really beef up if we want to hear more from a certain level, then maybe we should focus a roundtable for that level to be able to get that information from them.
That was kind of what I was thinking too. Maybe generalize our roundtables. We've gotten very specific with the groups that we have been pulling in. Maybe it's just in September, we do an elementary school roundtable about communication in the district, and the following month it's middle, and the following month it's high school. And, or we can put in a very specific content area, so those are all really good ideas. We are at 6:31, and so I'm sure you all have to go cook your third meal of the day. So I'm going to shut us down, but I'll send notes with just a couple final questions. We can get some feedback via email. Roundtable suggestions. We didn't get to talk about that tonight. I know that we've brainstormed certain roundtable options. My question that I wanted to get to was, do we want to do a COVID response roundtable virtually over the summer? Or is there something over the summer we'd like to pull in and see what happens, see if we get people to show up? Who knows, so I'll put a couple questions to you. If you have any other questions or suggestions that you think could help with the communication conversation, please leave it. And yes, thank you, Allison, for sending the draft survey. That would be fabulous. But technically, this is the last meeting of the year. And so our next one would be back in August. And so we can communicate via email over the next month, let's say, and we'll come up with some suggestions and figure out where we're going to be in a couple months. But I'll be excited to see all your faces again soon. All right.
Sounds good.
All right. Thank you all so much for a wonderful meeting. Thank you for all of the educators that are on here for supporting our kids and keeping us parents sane in the midst of all of this. Thank you to the communications committee for coming in and telling us what you're doing. You're doing an amazing job, and we look forward to working together as we continue to improve our school system and the communication for our families. I'm good.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Thank you for your hard work, and everybody stay safe.
Good
Bye-bye.
leadership.
All right. Have a good night, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Hey.
Bye.